Today's show, we're just going to do a little bit about Brexit and the fear, uncertainty and doubt that surrounds it, and how it's going to affect salons in the UK. I don't know. He don't know. But let's talk about it and let's try and figure it out together.
Well, in my opinion, I don't think it's going to change anything.
Okay, end of show. Nice, thanks for joining us. See you soon.
No, we can break it down into points, but my conclusion would be, don't worry.
Well, I think I've got there's five factors that I think potentially could affect hair salons.
Okay.
Do you want to know those five factors?
Please, we'd love to hear them.
All right, well, let's break them down one by one, yeah? Hang on, I need to refer to my notes. So when Britain leaves the EU on March the 29th, what things will affect your salon? Now let's put a little bit of context. You used to have a salon. You've had a salon for 30 years.
Yep.
And you sold it a couple of years ago, right?
Yeah, 3 years ago to the month, actually. So, yeah.
Okay. So you haven't, in practical terms, you don't have to deal with this, which is good.
Yep.
Because I'm sure there's probably a lot of hairdressing salon owners, managers that are all probably a little bit stressed, and the stress just comes from the uncertainty. Team morale.
Right.
If, for example, there's a member of your team that is affected by the new immigration policies that are supposed to come in or not, how's that going to affect team morale?
I mean, my experiences with staff is that really it's a dog-eat-dog environment.
So it's highly competitive.
It really is.
Within a salon. Yeah. Within a salon team.
They're your best friends when they would be your best friends, but they'll also be your worst enemy. And I kind of think if there is an employee who might have to be deported, yes, there will be up in arms about it. But then once that happens, the following day, they just get back to their normal routine because they have to. The clients are more important, the salon more important, and there's issues that they can't really do anything about. You know, if they go on strike, what's going to happen to the clients?
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah. Have you ever known a hairdresser salon to go on strike?
No, I haven't.
Exactly.
There's a lot of uncertainty surrounding what exactly is happening with that. You know, whether people will be allowed to remain here, whether people won't be.
Yeah, but don't forget, the whole thing started 2 years ago, right?
Yeah.
So 2 years.
But it's a bit irrelevant because we're still unclear today as we were 2 years ago.
Anyone that comes in after Brexit's got a problem. Anyone that saw when the vote was taken.
Right.
So
like there'd be an amnesty. Like if you're here and you're working and you're paying taxes, it shouldn't be an issue.
Exactly, it should be an issue. There isn't one hairdresser in the world who hasn't lost a client for one reason or another. Okay. So if they lose a client because of the Brexit thing, there's opportunity to gain new clients. Always.
Yeah.
So I mean, my philosophy was if you lose one, you get two back.
Sure.
Really. So again, it shouldn't be
that shouldn't be an issue.
No.
A change in demographic.
No. And also,
on a local level. Of course.
Well, there's one thing that has to happen. Right? Prices will go up because everything will become a little bit more expensive.
Sure.
All right. So the price will go. So that in itself might scare clients away to a degree. Okay. But that's not going to be because of Brexit, because the prices go up. If someone will go somewhere cheaper, someone will go like thing. So,
well, I mean, you're always going to have that in every thread of society, aren't you? Yeah. There's always going to be a unique bias. There's always going to be a certain percentage of person that looks at price before they look at quality.
Exactly.
And I think from a hairdresser's point of view, it's really part of your remit to focus on quality.
And one thing most hairdressers in the last 10 years. They've had an easy street, I think, and because
you think so? What? 10 years of austerity?
Not 10 years of austerity, but in the fact that I think the hairdressing itself hasn't been imaginative.
Right.
And
so we've rested on our laurels, you think?
100%.
And you think that? Do you think the internet has allowed us to rest on our laurels?
Well, I think a lot of hairdressers sort of gravitate towards not so much the internet but social media, and thinking that is where they would drive new businesses from.
And because of this free marketing.
Yeah.
But now,
because of reaching a much wider audience, so our clients in France, clients in America, they can reach a much wider audience, thinking they would draw clients from there. And that actually sort of made them very lazy.
Sure. But isn't that what it's all about? It's about experience, coming to a salon, and certainly the millennials today, they are definitely up for the reaffirmation that posting stuff online gives them, which is that feel-good factor of getting likes and look where I am. So, but hairdressing, certainly in the top salons, it is all about experience anyway. It's always been about that.
It is,
never...
but if you actually sort of look at these images on social media, all the same.
Yeah, so...
all the same.
No, I agree with you there. I do agree with you there. Everyone's now figured it all out, and everyone's basically telling each other to do the same thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's where the problem is.
Okay, so to get that back to my point about clientele changing, that's not going to affect it.
No.
My question to you is, will leaving Europe affect product delivery and the logistics surrounding equipment and all those kind of things?
To a degree it will do, but again, having to be forward thinking, the world is going towards veganism now, more organic.
Okay.
All the best scissors come from Japan.
Japan, yeah.
Okay, so that's not going to affect.
And even a lot of the electrical equipment now comes from China.
Exactly. So we there's one hand it's not going to affect it at all.
Sure.
And the other hand it might affect it, but that's where people have to be a little bit more critical again. Thinking, okay, you know what? I want to go veganism.
So what do you think? So dropping those European brands?
I think it's a positive.
So if you dropped a L'Oreal, for example, a Montebello from Spain, a Schwarzkopf from Germany, you drop those European brands and you seek out British brands or Australian brands or American brands.
There's amazing stuff coming from Australia.
Right.
Amazing stuff coming from South Africa.
So once again, this is an opportunity thing, isn't it?
Right.
You know, it could force you to change the brand that you're using, and it could give you the impetus to actually modernise by like what you're saying, going organic.
Exactly, you rebrand it because the young generation, that's what they're looking for now. They're not looking for these sort of brands anymore.
Recycled plastic from sea plastic.
100%.
Yeah.
It's a fantastic opportunity.
So once again, that's not negative then, is it? That can't be a negative point.
Exactly.
Okay, so my fourth point to you is, once Britain leave the EU, will the fact that regulations may or may not change, will that affect salons going forward?
Yeah, because regulations always change because of health and safety. It's all about hygiene. It's all about sort of like the well-being of the staff, the clients, the environment. So we go to a much more cleaner society.
I mean, I would have said that the UK is quite a health and safety conscious society already.
There is, but sort of like it all sort of starts sort of like organically, then it goes mechanically, doesn't it? Because you know you sort of like you're taking certain things out of products, and you're taking things out of certain people's persona, and then eventually sort of the salons will have to adapt the air conditioning. You've got the fresh air intake, the extraction of air and things like that. So all these will sort of like will affect the industry because it's going to cost more money to implement. So yes, regulations will change and so have to.
Do you think they'll get looser or they'll get tighter?
I think they won't get tighter or looser. It will just become much more healthier.
It will just change something fundamentally.
And I'm a great believer of a healthier society, to be honest with you.
I mean, the argument is that regulations don't actually prevent anything from happening, because regulations generally are brought in after something's happened and something's been brought to someone's attention.
And don't forget, regulation is more universal as well, right? It's a global thing. I mean, I don't think Britain would just sort of like set a precedent for everyone to follow. I think it would set a precedent because everyone's doing it at the same time.
Sure.
So as a society, we're sort of like, look, we're ahead of the curve.
One of the main arguments I hear in the whole Brexit debate is, once we leave Europe, regulations could be loosened, and that we've got a lot to thank Europe for, because they brought in a hell of a lot of regulations surrounding, you know, things like packaging, food, you know, items such as that. as we know, I think one of the biggest regulations that I certainly experienced over the last 10 years was the change in the Brazilian blow dry, for example.
Oh, what do you do for
and there seems to be a very retrospective, there's a retrospective angle that they take on all of these things that are imported from any country in the world, let alone Europe. Whereas they won't do anything about anything until they get a complaint. So point I'm trying to make is regulation only ever tends to come in after an issue has been found. Like, they're not preventative. Regulation doesn't prevent things from happening. They have to happen first, and then regulation's brought in because, we can't let that happen again. You can't make the same mistake twice. Which is a sensible thing, but my point is, for example, going back to Brazilian blow dries, they had an ingredient in them called formaldehyde. They weren't technically formaldehyde, but basically once you ironed and you put heat onto the active chemical that straightened your hair, the reaction let off these emissions and fumes, and only after people started complaining of dizziness and nosebleeds and things like that did the British government then go and change regulations surrounding how much percentage of formaldehyde could be in a
But it never affected the client, it actually affected the hairdresser.
No, it affected the hairdresser. No, absolutely. In fact, it did have an effect on the client because any products that then come afterwards, they had unrealistic expectations to what had gone before.
Yeah.
My point is, those brands that came over and profited the most from that product have since disappeared out of the country. They've basically taken their business and they've gone elsewhere. They've got hairdressing salons and barbershops particularly. They're not regulated. Anybody, as it stands, can currently open up their own shop without qualification.
No, I think it's, look, if anyone could sort of open a salon, good luck to them.
Yeah.
Right?
And
if they could sort of like...
maintain it. That's my point. My point is, if you can maintain a salon for 6 months, you're doing something right.
Yeah. Well, if you could pay your rent 6 months... If you can pay your rent for 6 months, you're doing something right. 100%. You've got a good staff, you've got a good clientele, and everybody's... you help the community, right? The high streets benefit from it.
So the community decides, not the regulators. Because my whole thing with that, especially in hairdressing, is... who regulates the regulators? And then who regulates the regulators of the regulators? And then who regulates the regulators of the regulators of the regulators? And that's the point, isn't it? It's like accountability, responsibility. If my business is failing, it's going to be down to me.
Exactly.
Me only.
And not regulations.
And I can't then blame somebody else across the road, down the road, because my business is suffering.
You've got to look at yourself and say, where am I going wrong? Really.
And you've got to be open-minded enough to actually
This is what I was saying earlier on. So Brexit gives opportunities, and a lot of people have been sort of stagnant in their approach to the industry because it was all given to them in a box, sort of nice wrapping. And say, here it is. Now do the best you can do. We'll help you. But it's not enough anymore.
I mean, I don't want to be misquoted and people saying, Aaron's saying that, all regulations are bad. Listen, I understand regulations surrounding house building and flying aeroplanes and doctors and hospitals. I understand that you need to have a qualification, you need to adhere to a certain standard. But at the end of the day, what we're doing is we're cutting hair. And it's a temporary thing, isn't it? Cutting hair. It's a temporary thing. It's not something that's going to affect someone's life forever. I mean, obviously...
I don't know about that. People I've solved that.
Colouring and all that, perming, chemicals, not included into that. Hair grows, right? So, before everyone, fills up my feed with, you don't believe in... Listen, standards. Everyone should have a standard, and I believe that your first impression, what you give off, if your salon is clean, if it's tidy, if the sign's the right way up, if, you've got to take care of all those aesthetic things, and those finer points make all the difference.
And regulation does help that.
Yeah. I'm sure there is regulation that helps.
It does. It's how you interpret it, right? It's all about how you sort of read the small print. No one does. But if you tend to sort of look at the details, and most hairdressers should look at details because our industry is based on details. You know, some got much better perceptive of it, and some haven't. But if you could actually sort of look at the details, interpretate it.
Yeah, I mean, but there's a whole regulation point of view come from the big insurance companies. Because obviously when you open a salon, part of the remit is you've got to have public liability insurance, right? So if something happens in the salon, you'll be covered. Is there not an argument to say that with the stricter regulations comes more insurance costs and insurance fees? And once again, it's a cost thing, isn't it? It's weighing up the cost. I've now got to spend X amount in ticking all these boxes before I can even begin to trade. But doesn't that put a barrier of entry in? Is my question to you.
It does. It kind of, if you think you're getting protected.
Yeah.
But like you sort of said, you're probably spending money more than the protection you're getting. And it's really common sense as well. Really comes into it. Regulations are there to protect clients, protect the staff. Really, and make the salon more responsible.
Sure.
Really.
And sustainable in a way.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's there for all the right reasons.
Right, okay.
Really.
Yeah.
And like I said, it's how you interpret it to your advantages. Because every salon's different, right?
I believe that in America now, you do not have to have a cosmetology license for doing shampooing and blow drying and things like that. That's
like
part of the
like a blow bar.
Yeah, they've loosened the regulation there, so that if you're not doing non-evasive services, obviously, which blow dry.
Because in America, right, you know, over here you have juniors or salon assistants.
Yeah.
Over there, you had shampooists. You had a woman actually employed to be a shampooist.
Yes.
Okay. So and they kind of gravitate to just do blow dries as well, I suppose.
Sure.
That's
that's where the regulations come into. There can be a more informal hairdressing qualification that doesn't require such regulation to get qualified.
Yeah. I mean, £25 blow dry.
I mean, but the argument is, you know, has that held the standard of hairdressing in America back for all those years it's been in? Yes or no? I mean, I know it's a complex, you know, there's going to be amazing hairdressers in America, of course.
A lot of people say America is New York and Los Angeles, right? Or you know, California and New York, right? And not many people know Mid-America or Southern America and all these other areas of America. So I suppose standards are going to be very different. Yeah. Especially if you're in Texas. Yeah. You know, if you live here and salon's there, it's like an hour's drive. So you know, most hairdressers, I believe, learn from other hairdressers too. Sure. You know, once you're qualified and you work in a salon, you know, you get the best hairdresser and you learn from that hairdresser.
I always feel like
and you feed off each other.
Yeah, sure. No, I get that.
And in certain parts of America, it's sort of because you don't really get that experience. I don't think you can actually sort of like get that education, which is invaluable.
I mean, a lot of the time, I believe that individuality is kind of key in everything that we do. You know, everyone's got their own belief system, everyone's got their own work ethic. And to try and, you know, bottleneck people into a certain box, I think is quite difficult. And some of the examples I'll give is having the qualifications. Certain people think, right, that's it, I've got my certificate, that's it, I'm closed now for learning because I've got this bit of paper which says that I can do everything or whatever, you know.
But the smarter ones won't think that.
No, of course. Yeah. So I guess my question to you surround like bringing that into Brexit. Britain have always had this idea, ideal of Great Britain, handmade quality, Jaguar, Rolls-Royce, being Michelin stars.
Britain has always been the forefront of hairdressing. Yeah.
Been the forefront from Sassoon, Teasy Weezy, going back, you know, many decades. I guess my question to you is, with regards to Brexit, is there anything that you can see in Brexit that is going to increase standards of British hairdressing?
Of course it will.
Or do you think it will flatten standards?
No, it would actually improve standards because, look, part of the problem of our industry was that standards have dropped because you had a big influx of sort of, not as just Eastern European, but French, Italian, Spanish, Portuguese, Greeks, Turks coming over here, sort of like with their hairdresser skills and trying to influence our market. It's more competitive here.
Okay.
If you would have been the best, you have to sort of conquer the British market. Really, look at American products. They come and go, right?
They use Britain as a test.
To actually sort of to be successful in the product range, you have to capture the British market first.
And you have to go to other markets and say we're number one in Britain, in the UK.
No point being number one in Morocco or number one in China or number one if you're nobody in Britain. So the British market has always been the pinnacle of the industry.
Okay, so let's wrap this up now then, Joe. Let's ask that. So do you think Brexit will be a net positive or a net negative for the hairdressing industry as a whole?
As a whole, it has to be a positive. You have to take the positives out of it. There's going to be certain issues that will affect the after March 29, and I can sort of put it down here. You simply cannot panic. If you panic, then you're setting the wrong vibes. If you're a salon owner and you start panicking, your staff will gravitate to it, your clients will start gravitating to it, the street will gravitate to it. All of a sudden, right, you start putting everything to a negative. And you know what? No one wants to be around negative people.
That's true. So in the face of adversity, or the adversity that the mass media like to put on us, the fear that they're trying to drive, I suppose our answer is like, don't panic.
Be inspirational.
Stiff upper lip.
Well, no, just be inspirational.
British, have a laugh in adversity and keep drinking tea.
It just, make everything positive around it, and you know what, you'll get the benefits.
Ultimately, it's opportunity, isn't it?
I think it's a fantastic opportunity. It really is. I mean, look, the industry is changing anyway. Okay. I mean, let me take one scenario into my question. It's tattooing. Right? There's robots now doing tattoos.
Right.
Okay. It's going to be far more cleaner, far more effective, and quicker as well. Now, and yet, tattoo is one of the biggest industry because one part of the tattoo business, right, is tattoo removing is becoming much more effective.
Okay.
So people get a tattoo done, get removed, put another one on.
Right.
So that the industry is growing, right, eventually robots will take it over too.
But doesn't that then bring in the idea of handmade?
No, because people
because look, there's hairdressers out there that prefer scissor over comb to clipper over comb. There's that machine element to it. Like handmade is technically supposed to be quality.
You can't do machine over comb on women anyway.
No, I know that. I'm just saying, machines versus humans.
The industry changes, technology is going to change, regulations are going to change, right? So, one area is going to change rapidly. Hairdressing would change, but not as rapidly as the beauty industry.
Okay, so let me do a PS point. Let me just add one more thing to it. So therefore, if there's opportunity, the only thing that really is going to affect the hairdressing salon is if there is a disposable income decline, where people cannot afford to go and get their hair cut anymore due to extenuating circumstances surrounding inflation, the pound versus the euro,
I think
imports.
at the beginning that will happen because everything's going to go up, right? As you know, it's sort of like Brexit, prices will go up. And people will sort of be a little bit more cautious. But eventually, they will throw caution to win and they'll sort of start doing what they want to do.
Cheers, mate.
Well, thank you.
Enjoyed the chat. Listen, if you want to know more about any of the stuff that we discussed, or maybe carry on the conversation, just put something in the thing below, for sure.
There's no right and wrong.
We've been Joe and Aaron. Thanks for joining us. Hope you enjoyed the show. We'll see you next time. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
This road I take, well, I wonder every step for you. This road I take, well, I wonder every step for you.